This is the White Coat Investor Podcast, Milestones to Millionaire, celebrating stories of success along the journey to financial freedom. Here is your host, Dr. Jim Dolly.
All right, welcome to Milestones to Millionaire, podcast number 6. And this is going to be a great one. We're here with Corey the Millionaire. But first, I want to tell you about our sponsor. Our sponsor is Bob Baiani at drdisabilityquotes.com, a truly independent organization. Dr. Disability Quotes.com was founded on the basic principle of providing unbiased and conflict-free disability planning solutions to residents, fellows, attending physicians nationwide. They shop your business with every major insurance carrier to create a true own occupation policy at the best possible rates with all applicable discounting. So if you need disability insurance, contact Bob at 973-771-9100 or by email info@drdisabilityquotes.com. All right, let me sit down here. So Corey, welcome to Milestones to Millionaire podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you here. Let's start at the beginning. What's your specialty and how far are you out of training?
I'm in hospital medicine and I'm about 9 years out of training right now.
Okay. And what is your approximate net worth?
2.8 million.
2.8 million. Congratulations on that. What's that divided up into? How much of it is in retirement accounts, investment, your house, et cetera? How would you divide that up?
I have about 1 million in my primary home and in 2 investment properties, and the rest is in equities and bonds.
Okay. And what's been your range of income throughout your career?
My husband also works as a hospice, so our income has ranged depending on whether I'm working part-time or not, from about 300 to 500,000. Most recently, it's been about 400,000.
Okay. And and how many of those years did you work part-time?
I would say maybe about half.
About half. Okay. And how long did it take you to become a millionaire? Do you recall when you first crossed the 7-figure threshold? How far were you out of training at that point?
So I've been tracking my net worth on Mint since I started, and I think it took me about 5 years.
About 5 years. So you beat me by a couple of years. Congratulations on that. And what would you say were your secrets to success? How did you become so wealthy?
I think one of the things that I did was that I automated everything. I think one of the best finance books ever written was Ramit Sethi's I Will Teach You to Be Rich. So I put everything on automation, my investments and my savings and everything else. So I never had to think about making good decisions, and it always just happened. And then the other thing is, I think I was particularly motivated, just out of residency. I had just had my baby. I was feeling really burned out. I said to myself, I don't think I'm going to make it 30 years doing this. And so I realized that I needed to do something drastic so that I would be okay.
And did it work? Did saving all that money, did becoming more wealthy, did that affect your level of burnout?
It totally has. After I paid my house and I had the college saved up for and a good start in retirement, I was able to cut back to half time at work. And I have to say, I enjoy working again. The level of the amount that I was working has made all the difference for me.
Now, obviously, you're going to be able to retire early if you so desire. Do you think you will?
I don't know what's going to happen to me. The nice thing about getting close to financial independence is that you do have so many options. I'm not sure if I'll take the boards again in 10 years. I may not. I'm working on my MBA. I'm running marathons. I have other interests now, so we'll just kind of see what happens. Right now, I see myself working part-time for the foreseeable future because I enjoy it. I enjoy the social interaction with my colleagues, but I don't know what I'm going to be doing in 10 years' time.
Now you don't acquire a $2.8 million net worth, even on an income of $400,000 in 9 years, without being on the same page as your partner. How did you and your partner get on the same page toward this goal?
My husband was just really tolerant about me taking the lead and telling him that we needed to make some sacrifices and buying a house that was maybe a little bit smaller than our income could afford, and um, making sure we maxed out all the available retirement accounts and college savings accounts and everything every year. Neither of us has a huge luxury lifestyle, so it made it kind of easy. He's not a huge spender.
Now let's go back to that moment when you came out of training. You probably have pretty good mint records. Do you remember what your net worth was when you came out of training?
Yeah, it was negative $140,000.
And so from there to $1 million in 5 years, pretty impressive. So did any of this come from your parents? Did they pay for any of your schooling? Did you get any significant inheritance?
My parents paid for my undergraduate, but for medical school, I took out loans. And no, I haven't gotten any inheritances.
Okay. And how much debt do you have currently?
I just have the two mortgages on my investment properties. So that's about $200,000.
Okay. And what do you drive now? And how does that compare to what you were driving, 6 or 8 years ago?
So, for 8 years after residency, I drove the same car that I drove through residency, which was a Nissan Sentra. And then about a year ago, my husband decided he needed to get a Tesla. So I got his old car, and he has a Toyota hybrid RAV4, and that's what I currently drive.
So for 8 years, making $400,000 a year, you're driving a Sentra. Did anybody say anything to you? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think, my husband was like, that's not a doctor's car. Um, but mostly I got a lot of admiration from my peers for like sticking with it and just, driving it into the ground. So I didn't feel bad at all.
Awesome. So, what advice do you have for those who are a decade or two behind you? Maybe somebody coming out of residency this year who wants to be where you're at 9 years from now. What advice do you have for them?
I would just say put everything on automation, educate yourself in an ongoing manner. I think signing up for newsletters like from the Humble Dollar, from White Coat Investor, and then reading them religiously so that you know what to do with your money. Um, and then you will naturally kind of make good decisions going forward. And I think the motivation has to be there, and you have to be willing to sacrifice a few things to not live in the doctor's house, to drive a Nissan Sentra for a while. And then eventually you can have those things. Eventually you can have the Tesla. Eventually you can upgrade your house. It's the same message that you always tell your listeners. There's no great secret.
So, which Tesla is it?
You got the Model Y.
Okay. All right. All right. Okay. So, do you and your partner have any children?
I have one. Yeah, I have a 9-year-old.
So, how did you balance being a parent with becoming a millionaire?
I don't think I balanced it particularly well. I mean, because I was so burnt out after residency and working full time, and Ari was a newborn. I wasn't sleeping. I'm not. I don't think I was 100% there as a parent, and so that's really one great thing about working part time is I have been able to be there for him and be the parent that I should have been before and have always wanted to be. So a lot of people can do a lot of women maybe can do it all, but that wasn't the case for me. And I really needed to cut back at work and free up some hours so that I could be there for him.
So, it turns out you're human like the rest of us, huh?
It turns out I'm human. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah. I think we all feel that way about trying to balance that home life, trying to balance a career, and trying to get it right. But I think a lot of times there's a lot more guilt, both from society and self-imposed sometimes on women regarding those issues. There's no doubt about it. I think there was probably some discussion about that last night in the breakout meeting for the White Coat Investor Conference. All right. So tell me about your upbringing. How did that affect how you manage money?
I don't think I got a lot of financial education growing up. My father was a physician, but money was not really something that we discussed. And so really, I kind of educated myself after I came out of residency once I was bringing home a larger salary, and I needed to know what to do with all the money that I was making.
You're looking into ways to change that with the next generation?
I am. I have already signed up for a program called FAMZoo, which is an allowance program, and they get little credit cards that they can use to manage money. But mainly, I think the big difference with how I raised my son is my parents didn't want their kids to worry about money, so they never talked about it. But with my son, I'm being very open on talking about things like that, talking about, why we don't maybe drive as fancy of a car as his friends' parents have, and just being very opening up my personal finances to him so that he can hopefully make good decisions going forward.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on your success. This is really very remarkable. 9 years out of residency, $2.8 million net worth. It's really impressive what you've done. Congratulations on your
Thank
success.
you.
And thank you for
Thank you
coming on the
so
White
much,
Coat Investor
Jim.
podcast. You're very welcome.
Take care.
All right. So, some takeaways from her story. I mean, it's pretty incredible. If you add up $400,000 and you multiply it by 9, what does that work out to be? Well, that's only about $3.6 million, right? So they made $3.6 million despite paying all those taxes and all those living expenses. They've still got $2.8 million of it, which is really quite remarkable and shows a dedication to paying down debt, to investing regularly, to not messing with those investments so they continue to grow and keeping that lifestyle under control. So it's really a pretty impressive story, but really something that anybody out there in this audience can do. So thank you to our sponsor, Bob Bayani at drdisabilityquotes.com. They approach your desire to protect your earning capacity with care and compassion. From onset, their approach is one of friendliness, guidance, and professionalism. From your initial quote request to case submission and underwriting, they will help you navigate the approval process and service all of your future options and rights for your policy. Request a quote today at 973-771-9100 or info@drdisabilityquotes.com. Keep your head up, shoulders back. You've got this, and we can help. We'll see you next week on the Milestones to Millionaire podcast.
My dad, your host, Dr. Dolly, is a practicing emergency physician, blogger, author, and podcaster. He is not a licensed accountant, attorney, or financial advisor, so this podcast is for your entertainment and information only and should not be considered official, personalized financial advice.